The cryptocurrency universe, Bitcoin, of course, as we all know, has been volatile in the global market since the start of the year. Volatility on account of a number of regulatory changes that are happening across the world. Well, one of those regulatory changes came in from the Reserve Bank of India yesterday when the RBI said that no regulated entity, essentially all banks, will be allowed to deal with individuals or businesses that are dealing in virtual currencies. The central bank has given about 3-month time for anybody who has these dealings to unwind their position. There are two debates here. One, was such a dramatic step required? And the second debate is what happens to the ecosystem that has developed over the last many months around Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies here in India. Joining me to try and help me understand how all of this is going to play out is Naveen Surya, Chairman of the Payment Council of India, is joining me on the phone line. Kunal Nandwani, Founder and CEO at Utrade, joining me on Skype as well. We're going to just try and understand what the new finance universe, as I broadly call it, is making of this. Let me go across to Naveen first. Naveen, good afternoon. Thanks for taking our call. First question, the debate still is whether this was justified, warranted or not. Your view, because we keep, the old finance universe keeps saying that anything you do which is midway always gets, people find a way around it. So if they had to clamp down, they perhaps had to do it entirely.
Well, I think clamping down is not the solution, right? Because anything which is organized, when you clamp down, it will actually move to unorganized. In fact, when it was organized, you could track what is happening. You could find actions or you could find solutions to risk if it was creating. So I give a simple analogy that if you wear a black shirt and if it has a different spots, everybody can say, okay, ignore it, you can't even see it. Digitization and a new age economy is all about wearing a white shirt, which means if you have a spot, it will be seen. But when it is seen, everybody will take action. But increasingly, we are seeing challenges where there is a transparent digital system by organized players being created. Because we don't like those block spots, instead of fixing them, we simply shut it down. We're happy with things being in the underground, everything happening because underground no one's responsible. We increasingly move people towards that. So I find this is a funny approach. What could be solved with the organized, regulatory, systemic approach? We try and do indirect things to bring them down. And whatever is happening systematically, we bring it down. And ultimately, what we're trying to protect consumers, actually we leave them in a lurch. What will happen to these consumers now? The markets are all-time low in the cryptocurrencies. They're being now forced to sell. They have no solutions.
No, and that is exactly actually the discussion I want to have. I mean, we'll have you both in the studio one day for a wider debate on how the central bank approaches innovation. But Naveen, let me just ask you and then go across to Kunal as well. What do you suspect will happen now? Because all the cryptocurrency universe or whatever, I presume, was still built upon the traditional universe of the payment system. Now, if they're not allowed to interact with the traditional universe of the payment system, what happens?
Well, obviously, you simply shut down, right? You can't do any business. You can't give money to consumers, nor take, unless they cooperate. So it's better than the government makes a clear policy that this is not allowed. The holding, buying, selling, everything is illegal. You can't have this indirect approach. And in fact, even during budget sessions, we've been discussing that the government needs to decide. If it's going to be here, stay, then create a formal rules that, okay, these are the KYC norms, these are the escrow norms, these are different norms if you're dealing in this, these are the limits in which you can deal. These are kind of probably global name currencies that we will allow or not allow. But not doing in an indirect way, which means somebody who's already doing it, they're trapped and now saying that we won't cooperate, what happens to them? So this is precise question we are saying. And surprisingly, there are about 20 organized players. They've not been even discussed about this. There has been a continuous dialogue. There's been committees formed which are still framing their guidelines and suggestions and recommendations. Even before that comes out, this particular action is announced. So we are finding, so again, I'm sure there must be some reason, but those reasons need to be discussed. We live in a democracy. There should be a proper discussion, debate. I think there are a group of industries who already proposed norms which can be implemented to curb if there are risks. I mean, that risk exists in every system, in payment system, banking system, but we have a solutions to each of those risks. Probably the similar solution needs to be implemented in the system.
Okay, Naveen,
so instead of implementing, yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, I'm going to come back on solutions, but I just want to get Kunal in. Kunal, again, same question to you, because we're trying to understand how this ecosystem now moves forward. I mean, it'll shut down, yes, but there are people who have built businesses. So I guess, I mean, all of that goes out of the window. There are also people who have bought Bitcoins. What happens to them? All right, I think I've lost Kunal's audio, so I'll go back to Naveen. Naveen, again, people who had bought Bitcoins, invested in ICOs, etc., do they have an opportunity to unwind?
I think when they have said that there is a window available to close, this is probably what they mean, because obviously it will mean that you can't buy any new, let's say, positions with these currencies, but you can definitely, whatever you have, you will sell. The problem is this time frame, because if it is predetermined time frame, the markets don't behave. It's a global market. This is the time frame. The reality is over last 15 to 18 months, currently most of these currencies are all-time low in that last 18 months, 12 to 18 months. Which means if somebody has taken a position at a higher rate, they will be forced to sell at a lower rate and actually book losses. So probably the time frame, at least for unwinding, needs to be slightly more flexible and open till the time proper framework comes in. But the question that you were asking, that what also happens to the entities who build businesses, invested, they're all young entrepreneurs. They could have done this business out of any country, right? They're all well-educated guys. They're all technical. And all of them are not bad. There may be some. The reality is the bad people will still continue to thrive because they thrive in an underground economy. But what happens to them? Is there a message to them that, hey, guys, you stay away from India and you do innovative businesses outside the country? Indians anyway will figure out if they want to invest through their own informal ways, if they want to invest. So I think we're never against managing risk. I've always been supportive of doing businesses in a risk-free manner. We work very closely with government and regulators, but do it in a kind of a discussion in a right way for all the stakeholders.
Sure. Kunal, I think we have your audio now. Sorry, we were having a little bit of trouble. But I want to get your thoughts on how you see the ecosystem responding. I mean, you're nicely embedded in the fintech ecosystem. What are you hearing from people, guys who have these exchanges, etc.? What are they going to do now?
So I think in India, everyone would struggle if this ruling were to go through. This could be challenged by these ecosystem players, but not sure if anything would change. This ruling as such from RBI is a very safe move from their perspective, but definitely not good for the innovation like we talked about. There are countries who are trying to woo this business into their country. So, for example, France, Spain, Switzerland, even Gibraltar, Singapore, US, many countries are trying to sort of see what would be the next wave of growth in the technology-driven world. So after internet, blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptos could be a great innovation. And they could lead to the future economic systems, which we cannot even imagine yet, right? So I think we are just killing the goose. We are just saying, on one hand, 2 days ago, I believe World Bank came up with a report that India could form one of the next Silicon Valleys. But given these regulatory knee-jerk reactions, I don't think that's possible at all. You can't not take risks, and expect to innovate. Okay, innovation by definition needs risk taking.
Kunal, I mean, I don't know that it's fair to extrapolate a regulatory directive on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to all of fintech. I mean, they haven't shut down all of fintech. So, I mean, I'd like to leave that debate about regulatory innovation aside and talk about the impact of this more right now.
So the impact is the following. In the next few months, most Indians, if they want to legally exit the position, withdraw money back into, so they would have two choices. One, they could keep their money in cryptos forever, okay, as long as they can use it, keep it there. Or they would most likely want to convert it back into Indian rupees and run with the fiat currency in the future. No, I don't think many Indians or Indian nationals would want to trade Bitcoin versus an Ether anymore. That's not a product they understand. Everybody understands Bitcoin versus Indian rupee. There's a price, there's a cost that they understand. But Bitcoin versus Ether, there's a ratio that goes in. Those are not the products that would be traded. So certainly the trading volumes, the exchange platform revenues and the associated taxes as well would definitely go down. But for sure, in Indian markets, the cryptos trading would drop significantly. And that's how it's going to go. And the people who have built the businesses around, either they would have to figure out alternate ways, maybe expand into international territories or slow down or shut down. That's how they would end up.
Kunal, I assume they can sell their Bitcoins on overseas exchanges. And also, my colleague in Bangalore, Nishant, wanted to ask whether the entire sort of process of this cryptocurrency would move into cash. Whatever was happening on these exchanges, can it move into cash?
So, of course, yes, cash markets work. Reality is irrespective of how much we clamp down, Hawala also works. Those things, when they grow in the hidden, in the gray area, that's how these things could operate. But I think the bigger challenge, which is actually not in the favor of RBI, is that if people start moving their Bitcoins abroad, right? For example, I may send my Bitcoin to somebody in US and ask them to give me dollars or buy me an iPhone or something. In principle, it could be a violation of FEMA Act, Foreign Exchange Management Act, right? Because I'm moving money out of India without even any authorized dealer, any authorized participant informing to RBI why the money is moving. So frankly, this may lead to unintended consequences as well. And retail people would not do it intentionally. They would not just know of FEMA or any related guidelines that RBI has. So that's a risk we run. Of course, it can go into cash. It is likely to go into cash. It has been working in cash in the background as well. That is probably one of the risks why RBI is trying to cut it down or clamp it down. But equally, transferring money abroad, whilst in Indian constitution, cryptos are not yet recognized. And that is probably the reason why they have not completely banned it. To ban something completely, you need to first recognize in the legal system in the constitution.
Yeah.
For them to first recognize cryptos there, that is a bigger probably change that they need to go through at some point in the future if these things were to stay around. So, it's a very complicated situation, right. I'm sure. Let's see how it plays out.
All right, Naveen, just last question to you. I think right in your initial comments, you said that you'll push the system underground. At least so far, you knew what was happening. What is the risk, Naveen, that you see, which, I guess one would need to guard against or watch against?
Risk, I think there are all kinds of risks. I think we always say that because of the risk we take action. The reality is those risks actually only multifold increase when you don't have under your control. It's just that we don't see them. So I personally see that maybe certain consumers will completely be lost about doing this activity because they don't like it. But those who are still active participants, they will find their own ways and means to continue to do it. Because like I said, they see the future in these kind of technologies. They would still want to invest in it. So they would find their own informal ways, which is where the economy of this will continually give a birth to a new black economy, which is where, so one side our country is saying that we want to explore blockchain because we like it. We want to issue our own digital currency, which actually we've been always advocating even at PCI, that our country's cashless solution can go away with the digital currencies issued by the government. So we believe in the concept. But on the other hand, whatever is working, we're not saying that there is risk-free. There are definitely risks. We are saying when there are multiple examples, we have a derivative exchanges running, we have a commodity exchanges running, we have a stock markets running. All of them are very active forex markets. We have enough know-how and knowledge to regulate them. Why are we not doing that instead of taking a shortcut and crippling a system which has been built by entrepreneurs over a period of time? Those who are doing an organized system, transparently sharing data with you whenever asking. So why not work with them and create a risk-free system rather than just simply indirectly shutting it down? Or government should officially say that this is not acceptable. This has not happened.